Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Come on in. So this is going to be a really good show. We did start one, and then unfortunately we got a call and we got that cleared up. So we're going to start this again. And why this is going to be a good show? Well, simply because it's today and it's going to be better than any of the last podcasts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it's going to be better than all of the past YouTube videos. And they just keep getting better every time. So we're going to cover a lot of really good stuff in this episode. And we're going to talk about caffeine, how to leverage it, and give you a really nice system with that. Talking about hockey overwhelm and how to maintain your system and how to use rest periods. Then we're going to talk about goal setting and why it's important to set up systems and why goals are for losers. So before we get started, we do need to get things started off right. So won't you join me now for the always exciting, always enlightening dopamine hit of the day, as good as scoring the winning goal in overtime to win the Stanley Cup. And all you need is water, Gatorade, or protein greens, Steel, powder, or anything in between. And so won't you grab your favorite sports drink or sports beverage? And I prefer water with usually a little Himalayan sea salt, but we just got water today. And won't you join me now for the simultaneous sip? And it happens now. Go. And the reason we do that every single episode, I got this from a guy named Scott Adams. And we do that every time because that brings the hockey community together. And usually the hockey community is pretty separated. You kind of have each team, and each individual team kind of has their kind of group. And sometimes those groups are even divided. But even in best case, when you have that team is together, there's not a lot of community within the entire group, an entire league. And you're seeing it starting to happen with the NHL. And you're going to see it happen more and more through communities like the one we have here. So every time you sip and every time we do that together as a group, it's going to continue to grow and build. So I'm going to be soon doing live calls where we all sip together and the community will continue to grow. And if you're in our membership, we do a call every Thursday or Friday. Sometimes we mix up the days, but that is an Unreal exclusive members call that we do. So if you're not in there, you're missing out. You better join that group. So the purpose of the podcast, the purpose of this video is to bring honest conversation about hockey and about life for the people who want to succeed and want to live a great life, both on and off the ice. We don't want any secrets. We want to push the conversation forward in culture, development, relationships, spirituality, diet, training, and everything in between. So build together a community of driven players to help us all love the game more and perform at our best. So I hope that you leave inspired, informed, entertained, with an actionable system to attack something in your game and in your life. And hopefully you leave ultimately with a new filter on reality and you look at reality in a different way. So every single episode, everything I do is designed to help you turn hockey and your life into a game, a fun game that you can play, you can perform at, and you can enjoy. So please leave feedback, leave a comment below this video, leave a comment on the podcast, and give us a rating. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can see all the latest videos, everything we're talking about recently. And leave a comment. Leave a comment somewhere on any of the Instagram stuff in the High Performance Hockey Parents Facebook group where we discuss a lot of good stuff. And make sure to subscribe to the podcast. And as I just said, sometimes when you're reading off this, I got to get used to not repeating and accidentally jumping ahead in it. So let's talk about some updates. First of all, and probably most importantly, if you're watching the video or if you've seen any of my most recent videos, you have seen my crazy hair. Now, I blame this on quarantine, and I'm sure lots of other people who've grown their hair out are doing the same thing. But definitely I can get a cut now. I know there's places I can go. I know I have friends that have a parent or a cousin or something that could do it. But if I'm being honest, I really just like growing it out. This may be, and you might want to note this down, this might be the last time you see me with this long and crazy of hair, but it's just completely out of control. I always say I'm kind of trying to grow a little bit of an afro, and I think I've sort of succeeded. It's kind of like my own version of it because I just have really volumized hair. So I am aware that it doesn't look as professional, and I know that's not the greatest thing. Visual persuasion is key. Looking good is always a good thing. And this definitely doesn't make me look like I'm trying to look better, but that's all right. It's really comes down to the fact that this was a chance I had to grow it, and I'm really happy I did. It's a pretty cool look. So that's that. The next thing, my experience using coffee. So I love to just jump around randomly in these conversations. So my experience using coffee has been a very interesting one. I was always aware that I wanted to try my best to avoid jumping into the use of coffee and the use of caffeine unless I needed it. And I've been lucky enough to really do a pretty solid job with this. So what I want to do is give you guys a nice system that you can use to really try to get more out of coffee. If you haven't already kind of got addicted to it and you don't drink it on a daily basis. You're not drinking it every single day. This hopefully will provide you some kind of insight. Now, if you're already kind of hooked on it, you can try to apply this, but it's just going to be harder. So keep that in mind. So my approach to caffeine is I only use it when I want to be 2 times more productive. So if I can go into a situation, say I have to get up early for something, and I step into that, and I want to basically just have a good day. If I'm feeling fine or if I'm just feeling a little tired, I won't use caffeine because I know that I can push through that. And I know that ultimately my body can handle it, but caffeine is a boost. Now, when you want to use that boost is when you know you want to double anything, your productivity in anything you're doing. So I know this is something that everybody will say, oh, well, I want to double it all the time. But here's the thing. You only have so many times you can use it. If you use it, you drink 3-4 cups a day, which people who are already on that, I'm sure lots of people who are listening are already on that. But once you step into that and you start using it that often, it's pretty much it's now a way to get to a baseline. Your kind of energy levels are a baseline and they require caffeine to get you to it. You're always kind of running below, you have that caffeine, boom, you hit that neutral. But for me, what I've tried to focus on is I want to be able to sit at neutral. I want to have my neutral point with no caffeine. And then I can take brief visits into that. And then sometimes what I'll do is that if I find that I have dipped down into that kind of lower part of really my energy systems, or really just my mind itself is just not functioning the way I want it, then what I will do is I'll take that caffeine and hopefully get it to baseline or get it above. But I don't want to become, and I'm trying my best, obviously, and we'll see over time how this goes. But I've been able to, up to 22, really been able to stay at my baseline not needing caffeine. So this may be a genetic thing, so keep that in mind while I'm saying this. But if you've been able to stay away, consider using it only when you want to double your productivity. If you can maintain and perform at a high level normally, but you step in, and for me, it's, for example, if I want to write a bunch of blogs in a day, I know that I got to get a bunch of stuff done today that I usually don't, more stuff. Then I use the caffeine. Say I have a hockey game. I'll only use caffeine during the season, usually when I have a game. I won't use it for practices. Sometimes I'll do it as an experiment to kind of practice with a little extra energy, but very rarely will I use caffeine for that. I try my best to avoid caffeine prior to workouts, but sometimes in the off season, I'll experiment with once a week or twice a week, trying a little caffeine or a healthy pre-workout. And it gives you a nice boost. So you can take caffeine pills, which some people really try to claim that they're not good for you. But ultimately, I believe that if you're taking really just caffeine and it has like a little, whatever the filler they put in the pills are, that's probably going to be healthier than taking just a crazy dosage of some kind of like energy drink. Energy drinks, I really think, are kind of demonized when they're not that bad for you. It's simply that your body just doesn't need everything that's in it all the time. Like you don't need to be having like 500% recommendation of your B vitamins, but it's not going to hurt you to have that once in a while. You just don't want to do that all the time. You may also notice if you're watching the video, the lighting changes a lot in this room. It's because I have a window like directly across. So then sometimes the light goes crazy and boosts up, and then sometimes it dips back down. So it kind of like wavers back and forth, which is interesting. So hopefully that kind of system helps with the caffeine. I think it'll make a big difference for you. Now, hockey overwhelm. This is a big, big topic, and I just want to kind of take one kind of swing at it right now, and then we'll kind of come back and we'll circle back to this a lot in future episodes. But hockey overwhelm, I really define it as the loss of connection with the joy of playing. When you feel overwhelmed and you get that passion dip, it means that you're really just not enjoying the game anymore. Now, the hard thing about this is that there's a big correlation, really a big connection between when you're playing well and when you're enjoying it. And this is something you'll run into is a player will play well, and then they're at the highest of highs. Suddenly they love the game. It's the best. Then they have a couple bad games, and then hockey's the worst thing ever. And this overwhelm is a dangerous thing to get into because if we get too overwhelmed and we run into this high stress, and the problem with hockey overwhelm is there's a lot of things that come in. So from all different directions, you may have school that you're struggling with, or maybe you have work and school, and then you have a relationship, and maybe then you have your parents and your friends, and then you got to balance that with, okay, well, I want to have a quality balance of all these different things. And it's really important to understand that these are separating factors that come in, and they are all important pieces of life. As a hockey player, you can't give up everything just to play hockey because you'll lose your mind. Now, obviously, when you are playing professional at a high level, you do have to take spurts of time where you're not paying attention to certain things, and that is a kind of a fact that goes along with it. But no matter what, you still have to maintain your mind. You have to be able to manage stress. Now, the basic thing that I have all of my clients do, that I have everyone do, is just learn to meditate. Really get into 10 minutes a day, every single day, just doing some form of meditation. Why? Well, because that is an easy way to combat all of these different stressors coming in. And the reason this works is because when we talk about how the brain gets overwhelmed, it's because we're constantly thinking about all these other things. These things are going on in our mind, and then consciously we want to jump from thing to thing to thing to thing, and we can't take that. It's super, super stressful. That's what makes it stressful is you want to be here, but you also want to be here. You want to be playing hockey, but you want to be spending time with your friends. You want to be seeing your parents enough or talking to them enough, and then you also want to see your girlfriend or boyfriend enough. Or maybe you want to be training, but you also need to make sure you have enough energy in order to also skate, and then you have to make sure you're recovering and putting time into that. And there's just a million things. So that stress, that pressure on your head pushing in drives people insane. And this is why it's not talked about, but anxiety and depression are such a common thing in sport. So many professional athletes deal with massive, massive amounts of stress, but they don't want to talk about it because if you talk about it at a professional level, it makes you look weaker. And then the players who do come out and they say, oh, I went through a big amount of depression, they kind of, they don't always get framed the right way. Those people sometimes maybe get glorified because you see them and they succeed, but you don't see the players who don't succeed because of having these crazy mental battles. And I think that's garbage. Like that's so ridiculous that it's not being talked about. How can we not be talking about something that's plaguing an entire, really the entire world, not just sport, but how can it not be talked about in one of the most popular sports in North America? I think you could argue it is. Um, you got like baseball, football, basketball. Those are pretty popular, but it's definitely up there. Hockey, I mean, if you're listening to this, you obviously would put hockey in your top probably 2, if not number 1. So that is something you want to consider. So as a baseline, get into meditation. I can't advocate for it enough. It's going to teach you how to actually focus on one thing at a time. So you can focus on when you're in the game, or you can focus on the practice. You go to your training session, you focus on that training. Then you go and you see your teammates. You're focused. You're there, you're enjoying it. You're present, you're in the moment. And then you're able to go from thing to thing smoothly without this lag time of thinking back, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done that. Then you're thinking ahead, what am I going to do? How am I going to do better at this? And your brain will just drive itself absolutely insane. And then, not even if you're just thinking as a basic thought of what to do or what should have been done, but then you get the negative thoughts. Then you get those things like, I'm not good enough, or maybe I shouldn't be in this league, or maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. And you just start these crazy negative spirals. Then imagine having all these crazy spirals while trying to balance other things. It's not going to work. Your brain's going to get overwhelmed, and that's when hockey overwhelm happens. So think about that. Consider that. And again, start with that. And again, we'll dive back into this. We'll go through a lot of different techniques and patterns that you can use. All right. So now we want to talk about goals versus systems. We want to talk about why goals are for losers. And yeah, that is supposed to kind of make you think and draw your attention to it. And that will make you think about it more. You're probably going to leave this podcast thinking about how the goals you've set in the past have made you a loser. And that's going to drive you pretty crazy. So I'm going to stop you from feeling crazy about it in a couple minutes, but think about that. And don't worry, I did the same thing. So don't think that this is me saying bad things about you. This is just saying universally, we've been lied to about what is an effective way to properly increase your performance and to reach higher and higher standards of performance. So here's the thing. Passion runs out. And we just talked about that. And when you're struggling, this is when your passion drops. And when you're playing well, of course, you're going to feel good. But the second that you play bad, your passion dips down and suddenly you don't love it as much. And this is what happens when you get in a slump. You get in a scoring slump. You have an off game and you feel bad about it and it dips you down. Bad game, down, bad game, down. And suddenly now you're at this super low point mentally. This is that spiral we just talked about. And when you get down and you're frustrated like this, it becomes very, very difficult. You can end up probably getting sat. You may get put out of games, be a healthy scratch. If you get hurt and you lose your spot, you're going to be super frustrated. So it sucks. It's a super difficult thing. And nobody is really prepared enough for this. It's hard. And when you set yourself up to be reaching for something that you know you're not going to get until the very end of the season. So let's say I want to score 50 goals this season. It's great to reach high in general. Like, it's great to work hard to try to get there. But the problem is that let's say the goal is over here and you're over here. Well, the entire time you're waiting to get there, you're not there, and you're basically failing. You're losing until you win, which is the worst way to think, because this is what makes people feel so frustrated and gets them so low when they're in the season, because you're so stressed out. And this is what sucks, is then you get in the spiral, because at probably midpoint or maybe early on, if you don't have 25 goals by mid-season, it's going to be pretty tough to hit 50. And you may be able to change it around. You may think more positive, But deep down subconsciously, you're aware that you're not on pace to hit that. And it's going to be in your head. It's going to create frustration. And that's what's going to make you feel like a loser. That's what is going to destroy your mind. So here's what you want to do. You want to set up your training like building blocks, put it together, and stop setting up goals. Because again, they're going to make you feel like a failure. And as you progress, to avoid this pendulum of doubt, we simply remove this entire idea of 99.99% of the time, you're not at that goal until you hit it, and then you set the next one. And you create this like never ending failure loop, basically. So instead, you want to actually build the track that you're going to go on that's going to head in a direction. And then all you do is focus on the track. You focus on getting your mind right and figuring out the pieces to enjoy every single movement, every single day, the process of getting there. And then get that system dialed in. That system will build you into the player that could achieve whatever goals you were setting. But in this sense, you're only directionally trying to improve. So instead of saying, I need to score 50 goals, you say, I'm going to be a goal scorer. And that gives you the ability to actually focus on what can make me a goal scorer. Then you establish the identity as a goal scorer. Then you put the pieces together. You say, well, I'm going to be great at this shot because that's going to point me in the direction of being a great goal scorer. And this is something you can keep working on. And if you set yourself up with goals that aren't going to limit you and aren't going to lock you into, well, that's it. Now, if I don't score 50, I'm a failure. Instead, if I'm a goal scorer, but I play a couple games where I don't score, that's okay because I know that I am. And I know that all that matters is that I work on the pieces underneath, right? So goal scorer is the top kind of tier. And then you have maybe shooting, stick handling, skating. You have the basics, right? But then you break those down into, okay, well, I'm going to be really good at this cutback move and into a shot. I'm going to be really good at the stick handling part of that. And you piece all these layers underneath. And this is going to allow you to be that player, set that identity, play into that reality. But it all starts with, first of all, actually knowing and believing that you can actually be whatever player you're hoping to become. And it needs to be you can't just fake it. You actually have to genuinely believe that. And that's why we talk about the identity, dipping into the subconscious mind and breaking that all down in the identity builder and through the identity 2.0 programs. So this is what the membership is all about. And it's so powerful. It's insanely powerful. And if you want to learn more about the membership, you want to learn more about Identity 2.0, then the link will be in the description and make sure to go check it out. The principles we focus on are, first of all, you want to get your mind right. So you want to get your head focused and learn how to focus. We have the courses built for that. Then the next thing is you want to learn exactly what player you are and learn about what limits you have just mentally that are preventing you from being able to become way better and actually reach your actual capacity so you can perform way higher. Then you want to figure out, okay, well, now that I know that, how do I want to build the system? You put the system together and you build the system piece by piece by piece. And once you do that, the next step is learning how to fall in love with the system instead of simply always reaching for some future thing. You set up the player you are. Then you establish what are the blocks that I have right now that are holding that potential back right now. You break those down in the system every single day. You work on the mental blocks and you work on the physical blocks. We include both of those in the programming. And when you're working on both of those simultaneously, they feed off each other. The mind gets better, you feel better, you play better, which makes you feel better. You feel better, which makes you play better. And it creates really a springboard, constantly rising up and playing better and better. So that's what the system's all about. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I hope you got something out of this idea. But remember this point. Systems are for winners, goals are for losers. So focus on your hockey system and putting everything together, and stop setting these crazy goals that are going to make you feel like a loser. And then that's why you won't win, because the mental game, it's the whole game itself is a battle within you. Because if you come out of your hockey career satisfied and you feel like you actually did what you wanted to do, you enjoyed the process, and every single day was the most fun thing you've done, then didn't you win, right? And obviously, you want to literally win the games, but if you feel bad, you feel negative, and you're not enjoying it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're depressed and anxious the entire time you play a season, is that how you want to live your life? I would say no. I would say no. And I would say that you want to deal with those and then get back to that level and feel good while playing better and better, as opposed to feeling like garbage and just holding on every single day, every season, just hoping, praying that you won't get cut. So systems are for winners. Great hockey players use systems. Goals are for losers. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching.